This class is concerned with marketing ethics. First of all, let's look at the ethical criticisms of marketing. Sometimes people say that high prices are an ethical criticism. In fact, we have to be careful here, because high prices may simply be a reflection of the conditions in the market. There may be a shortage of raw materials or a shortage of the product in the market, leading to higher prices, leading to competition amongst consumers or amongst buyers that will bid up the price. So it may not be an ethical position, but sometimes it's quoted as a problem, that companies are charging too much. But as I said, that may be a reflection of market conditions. Deceptive practices, however, is more difficult to deal with. If a company is dealing in deceptive practices, this means that they are hiding some aspect of the truth from the consumer, from the purchaser. They may be, for example, they may say that the product is going to last a certain number of years, when in fact they know the product is only going to last a few months, and they are deceiving the customer into believing something that they know to be untrue. So deceptive practices are a problem, and these are certainly ethical issues. They may also, of course, engage in high pressure selling. They may engage in selling techniques which are very forceful and break down the customer resistance to purchase. They break it down by continually reciting certain properties of the product and making the product sound so desirable, and it will address so many issues in the customer's life. Perhaps this is not the case, but the point is they are pressurizing the customer to make the purchase. They are almost forcing the customer to make the purchase. So it's high pressure selling. They may sell, of course, harmful and unsafe products. They may know that their product is dangerous, but continue to sell it. There have been cases of children's toys that have been sold in the market, and producers knew that the toys were dangerous to the children, harmful, perhaps having sharp edges, or running the risk of being cut, or perhaps having colours which are dangerous if they were put near the mouth of the child or whatever. So sometimes products can be harmful or unsafe, and there are ethical issues involved there. It could be that the producers plan for the product to wear out by a certain date, but don't tell the customer. They tell the customer that the product is going to be long wearing and give good value for money, when in fact they try to get the product to wear out beforehand, so the customer has to make a renewed purchase. The customer has to come back and buy a replacement. So they plan obsolescence. They plan for the product to go out of date. Sometimes this is levied against producers in the computer industry or in electronics industry. They try to sell products, and they know that the product is going to be superseded by a new product which was going to be more desirable, etc. So what they're trying to do is get customers to buy the existing stock, knowing full well that the existing stock will be obsolete in a very short period of time. That's not very ethical. It's not very nice. And it may offer poor service to disadvantaged customers. Perhaps some customers who make the purchase are unable to get back to the store because they're not able to go back because of some disability. some mobility issue perhaps. So they can't go back and ask for a refund or ask for the product to be fixed. And the company know this, and they don't make any provision to help those customers. It could be that the customers don't find it easy to use the internet, or don't have access to the internet, so they can't make complaints and they can't discuss issues and look for support online. And the company is quite happy not to have contact with the customers after the purchase was made. So it seems very unfair, but there are ethical issues, and you can see from this little list of 6 points, ethical issues do arise, and companies sometimes don't feel too bad about having these problems, because it means, for example, in the case of planned obsolescence, they're going to make more sales because the product is, the one they're selling is going to be out of date shortly. They don't mind perhaps making sales to people who can't complain or find it difficult to complain, because it saves having to offer that service. So there are ethical issues, and it's important to take these on board. Let's look at high prices. Now, high prices could be caused by the high cost of distribution. So perhaps the high price is not so much unethical, it's just unfortunate. But the company could have high advertising and promotion costs. Now, that's something the company can control, and by reducing its advertising and promotion costs, it may be able to reduce the prices, so the customers can receive the product a little cheaper. It could be that the company has excessive markups. It depends on how important the product is. If the product is, let's say, an ethical pharmaceutical drug, it's a drug that we need for our health, the company might be tempted to put the price up excessively, knowing that we're going to have to purchase that item anyway. So there may be an issue there. Now, deceptive practices. Well, falsely advertising price reductions. For example, setting a high price and then cutting it and calling it a factory price or a wholesale price or a clearance price. So they start off by selling the product at a very high price, and then they cut it back, perhaps slightly cut it back, and call it the new factory price, and we're now selling the product at the factory price or at the clearance price, which of course is still represents a good markup for the business, a good markup for the company. So it's deceptive pricing. It's not the true factory price, it's not the clearance price, it's a price that the company wants to sell at. It previously deliberately sold at a high price, so it could reduce the price and make it sound like it's selling it very cheaply. There could be deceptive promotion, overstating a product's features or performance, and running fraudulent contests, getting people to say that they like the product. In fact, the people they're getting to say they like the product may be employees of the company, or it may be that the people who say they like the product don't exist. They're just the imagination of somebody with a computer who invented the feedbacks. There's also what's known as bait and switch advertising. Advertising a low price and then telling the customers they're out of stock and sell a higher priced product instead. Bait and switch, in other words, they use a very low price to get the customers into the shop, offering a very low price. When the customers enter the shop, they say they're just sold out. However, we have an alternative which is at a higher price. So it's deceptive promotion. Could be deceptive packaging, exaggerating package contents through slick designs and misleading quantity or quality imagery and misleading labeling. Sometimes packages can be used to sell the product. The product looks expensive, it looks good quality, the package looks impressive. In fact, the product is not so good. So the customers are taken in, they're fooled by the deceptive package. High pressure selling. Well, salespeople are trained to get sales. They use tried and tested techniques to encourage customers to make purchases. The salespeople use psychology. They understand what the customers want. They try to play on what the customers want. They tell the customers about the quality of the product and how desirable the product is, and they try to get sales. It's high pressure salesmanship. They try and keep the customer in the shop until they've made the sale. So it's high pressured selling. So it's selling the product to people who don't necessarily want the product. They are being persuaded to buy the product. It's high pressure selling. And the salespeople get a bonus perhaps for selling the product. So they have an incentive to try and persist, to try and sell the product to customers who don't necessarily want it. It's high pressured selling. Ultimately, of course, it's destructive. It destroys the customer's relationship and the goodwill the customer had towards the company or towards the shop or towards the outlet. The customer's had a bad experience. The customer's bought a product that he or she does not necessarily want. They were pressurized into buying it. Now, having purchased it, they realize after reflecting upon what happened, they've bought a product that they didn't want, and they feel that they've been victims of high pressured selling. Unsafe products. Well, these can be poorly made products, products which are dangerous, products which are which can cause injury, products perhaps that don't perform well. They deliver very little benefit to the customer. The user has a bad experience of the product. The products are unsafe, they're potentially dangerous, they don't perform well, they don't perform in accordance with the expectations that were created in the shop when they bought the product, and they don't deliver a lot of benefit. As I said, they can cause bodily harm. And there have been examples of toys, as I said much earlier, that have been sold to children which were dangerous. They had sharp edges and which could cause wounds and could cause cuts. So, harmful products. So how does it happen? Well, there's an undue focus on profits, increased production complexity, and poorly trained labour, poor quality control. All of these issues can lead to unsafe products. Too much focus on profits, too much make the product as quickly as possible and get it out. Sometimes production techniques are too complex and parts are missed out in terms of quality control. The workers are not trained properly. It's poor quality control. And new products don't have a safety record. So new products don't have a history. They're new. Therefore, the new products stand a greater chance of being unsafe. And finally, outsourcing production often leads to quality issues. When a company outsources part of its production to another company, it's very difficult for it to control the quality of the output. So again, the final product may be dangerous or may not be well made. Now, planned obsolescence. Well, products need replacement before they should, because they are obsolete. Products sometimes need replacement simply because the obsolescence, they're obsolete, and that's been programmed into the product. It's been produced into the product. So let's say buying a television. The television is high definition, but the new 4K televisions are on the way. So the purchaser has bought a perfectly good television, but will soon be looking for a replacement, perhaps a better television, a 4K television. The existing television is out of date and will become progressively out of date as time goes by. So the obsolescence is planned, it's built into many products. Of course, the advantage of built-in obsolescence is that the manufacturers get extra sales. They can now sell the original product and they can sell its replacement later. Producers who change consumer concepts of acceptable styles. This could be in terms of clothing and fashion. And in this case, people buy clothing and they believe the clothing to be fashionable and nice. It's what they want. But the fashion designers and the fashion houses change the fashions. And they may change the fashions on a regular basis, so that someone who buys fashionable clothes today will find that in a week's time or in a month's time the clothes are no longer in fashion. So it's built-in obsolescence. In other words, the clothing manufacturers change the designs on a regular basis to get more sales and make existing clothing unfashionable. Intentionally holding back attractive or advanced functional features and introducing them later to make old models obsolete. Various companies are accused of this. They hold back on perhaps on new innovations, and they release products with some innovation today. Customers are happy and they purchase the product and they're happy with the innovation, not knowing that there's even bigger innovation that's been held back, which will be released in the near future, making existing purchases today obsolete. Again, planned obsolescence, and it's wrong, but companies may do it. They may do it to get extra sales. There may be poor treatment of disadvantaged customers, poorly designed outlets with poor access. Sometimes people can't get into the shops because there are steps. And if they're in a wheelchair, it's difficult. It may be impossible. So perhaps they were helped in there originally by friends and relatives. They made purchases, and now the purchases are obsolete, or they're wrong, or they're faulty, or they're dangerous, or whatever, and the purchaser wishes to go back, but they can't get back into the shop. Perhaps there's a step or steps, or there's some impediment to them going back. It's particularly a problem in poorer areas where larger shops and cheaper shops don't exist. Poorer areas don't attract larger outlets, larger shops, larger and cheaper shops. So the poorer areas means that the people who live within the poorer areas can't always return products or complain or point out shortcomings in the product, or so there are issues there. Now, the impact of marketing on society. Well, marketing creates false wants and needs, or so the argument goes. Marketing may try to persuade people to act in a particular way, a way that they don't want to act naturally. So in the case of fashion clothing, it tries to get them to buy particular styles of clothes, knowing full well, of course, that these styles will be out of date in the next few months, but that's beside the point. The point is, marketing may create false wants and needs. It makes people desire these products even though they didn't have this in mind originally. It could be argued that marketing makes people materialistic. It makes people want things, want products. Perhaps they didn't necessarily want the products before, but now they want the products. They want to accumulate these products. The products could be for the household, or for themselves. It could be fashion items, it could be pieces of electronics, it could be particular phones or smartphones or whatever. It's argued that marketing may promote poor quality products because marketing is trying to satisfy customer needs and customers' wants, but it also wants to make sales. It needs to sustain the business. So it tries to bring the product to market as fast as possible. Perhaps quality issues have not been fully addressed. Cultural pollution. Well, advertising may lead to fashion trends. People don't have perhaps a natural desire to dress in a certain way or to wear certain items or to live in a certain way. But advertising may lead to this sort of trend. So it may alter the way people live. So it may influence behavior and buying habits. It may influence the way people shop and what they shop for and what sort of products they want. They may become brand dependent. They may like particular brands and want that brand because that brand is fashionable. The brand is more expensive, but it's fashionable. It's seen as a nice brand and they want it. So it may influence their behavior and their buying habits. So it may change the culture of the society. It may change the way the society lives. The type of products that the people in the society want, the way the people in the society live. Advertising may influence this. It may get them to behave in a certain way. There may be a cultural component to advertising. Consumerism. Well, in a social movement of consumers and consumer interest groups whose purpose is to promote the rights of buyers. So advertising on the one hand is trying to influence customers, but consumerism is trying to protect them. So there is a countervailing force that's emerging or has emerged in society. This is a force that tries to disseminate information about products, about the desirability of products, about the attributes of products, about their quality, and their desirability. So there are issues that the companies have generated, and consumerism responds by trying to tell customers what the issues are. Generally, it aims to get buyers value for money. So the consumerism movement tries to get value for money. It tries to give consumers information about the product, about the price of the product, about who's selling it cheapest and where it can be found, its quality, its attributes, its warranties, and so on. And the advent of the internet has greatly facilitated the amount of information that's available about products. Consumerism also promotes buyers' rights, trying to enable buyers to acquire rights, perhaps legal rights, the right to return the product, the right to reject the product if it doesn't meet their requirements. If the product has got poor quality which manifests itself after the purchase, the customers have rights to return the product and get their money back. And consumerism and the consumerism movement has promoted these rights. And so the buyers have physical and financial protection when they make purchases. The movement also tries to get market openness and ethical behavior. So it tries to promote good behavior amongst companies and tries to promote openness about the product and about the quality of the product and the likelihood of obsolescence and the likelihood of the product wearing out before a reasonable period has elapsed, and so on. So the consumerism movement is very much pro the consumer, trying to get better value for the product, better value for money for the product, I should say. Now, buyers' rights. Well, buyers have a right to not buy a product offered for sale, so the most basic right, the right to refuse to buy the product. They should not be forced or coerced into buying a product. They should expect the product to be safe. The product should not pose a threat to them, a physical threat. They should expect that the product is to perform as claimed. If it says on the package that the product will do certain things, then the product should do those things. It is wrong to claim that the product will do certain things when in fact it doesn't. So the consumer should be well informed about important aspects of the product. They should know about the product. And the buyer should also be protected against questionable products and marketing practices. Bad marketing practices, selling the product at inflated prices because they're claiming that it has superior quality when in fact they know it hasn't. The customer needs protection against this because it's deceitful. It is unethical. So they have a right to influence the product and marketing practices in a way that will improve their quality of life. One way of improving the quality of life for the customer is to tell the truth, tell what the product is truly like, and don't represent the price as being good value when in fact that is the price of the product. that's what it was selling for, and do not try to deceive the customer into thinking they're getting a special deal, but in fact they're not. So customers have a right to have ethical products sold in ethical fashion. Environmental sustainability. Well, sustaining the environment while producing profits for the company. So there is a tension here, or there may be a tension sometimes, that companies wish to cut costs so as to boost their profits, but by cutting costs they may be damaging the environment, they may be polluting, or they may not be cleaning up the pollution that they're leaving out of their production processes. So there is an issue in terms of production. There's the triple bottom line: social, environmental and economic. The impact of production and marketing practices may be analysed under these headings. So it's possible to look at production and marketing under a social, an environmental and an economic heading to see if the company is producing in an environmentally sustainable fashion. Let's have a brief look at each of these. We'll start with the levels of environmental sustainability. Well, preventing pollution, for example. The company should make efforts to produce without pollution. There should be product stewardship. In other words, the product should be good. The product should be produced in a manner that is consistent with sustainability. The product should be it should meet the customer requirements, and it should produce a profit for the business, but it also should not cause problems for the environment. The company should also be looking towards new environmentally friendly technologies, and it should make the customers aware that it's doing this, because customers have an interest in environmental sustainability. Customers have an interest in buying the product and enjoying the product. Customers will listen to the marketing message, but customers may also want an environmentally friendly production method. And the company should have a sustainability vision. In other words, the company should look to the environment and its long-term position in the market so as to generate sales amongst customers who are aware of the requirements of the environment and who are happy to purchase the product because the product is environmentally friendly. That's all I'm going to deal with here. There are many issues involved in this session that need fuller consideration. But for the moment, that's all we're going to deal with. It's wise to go back over the class, revisit some of the points, make your own notes, and pad out your notes from wider reading in the area. This is an important concept in the context of marketing, and it's one that is hotly debated within the literature at the moment. So let's leave it at that and leave it to you to follow up with further research. So, thank you for watching.